11 minutes past 7 now. As the face of the Leave campaign, Boris Johnson repeatedly stressed the need for Britain to have control over immigration from within Europe.
But this morning, it's been claimed he privately believes the opposite after 4 unnamed EU ambassadors reported the Foreign Secretary speaking directly against government policy.
So one claimed he did say he was personally in favour of free movement of people as it corresponds to his own beliefs, but he said it wasn't government policy.
A second said Boris Johnson has been openly telling us that he is personally in favour of free movement.
The Foreign Office has strongly denied that Boris Johnson made those remarks.
And joining us now is Liberal Democrat MP Alistair Carmichael, who's on the Commons Brexit Select Committee. Good morning to you.
Morning.
Good morning. Hi.
It's extraordinary to see this. The Foreign Office has come out and strongly denied that Boris Johnson made those remarks, but Boris Johnson is notoriously loose-lipped on occasion. We've seen him say things that perhaps go against government policy. If he did say something like this, bearing in mind the stance he took and how much of a driver he was regarding Brexit, what does that say about him, and particularly for all the people that believed him and voted because of his leadership?
Well, I mean, it is utterly bizarre. You know, I think he's right. I think free movement of people is a good thing. I think it's very good for our economy. But that wasn't what he was telling people when he was using his not inconsiderable charms to get the Brexit vote that we ultimately got. And now it seems that he is out there briefing ambassadors, it would appear, in a way that runs completely contrary to government policy. And you say that the Foreign Office has denied it, but in fact I was just reading the Times before I came in here this morning, and one of his own spokesmen is quoted as saying, well, this is just Boris, it's a personal opinion.
Well, but what's wrong with him having a personal opinion? I mean, we know for a fact that just before he decided to sign up to the Leave side, he had written arguments arguing both sides. You know, he's somebody who considers the benefits and disbenefits of both sides of the argument.
There are two things wrong with it. First of all, there is a thing called collective responsibility that means that when you join a government, then you sign up to government policy and you argue for it coherently. But actually, what really matters here is what's happening in the national interest. Boris Johnson is our Foreign Secretary. He's at some point going to have to sit down at a table with other Foreign Secretaries and other Prime Ministers across Europe. And you have to have somebody who has got credibility in the eyes of these people when he is conducting these negotiations on our behalf, because this could set our course as a nation for the next generation. And we've now got a man who has got no credibility at the head of one of the most important departments in our government.
Is there any thought that obviously we're about to head into these negotiations, and they're going to be crucial negotiations to understanding what we can get from Europe and what Europe is going to end up, that relationship can be, that actually this could be the ambassadors, this could be a move by Europe to try and destabilise Boris Johnson's position, put these things out there, and actually that becomes a bit more turmoil, and as you say, it undermines his credibility before we go into the negotiations?
Well, that's quite an extravagant conspiracy theory.
It wouldn't be the strangest, and we've seen things like that in the past.
The problem is for Boris that it has credibility, and as I say, his own spokesman is out there today apparently saying, well, this is his personal opinion. It's just a mess, but it's a mess because, in fact, Theresa May, at the head of the government, isn't giving any clear direction. She keeps saying, we're not going to give you a running commentary, apart from the fact that Boris then charges around Europe doing exactly that. The only people who don't get told what the future holds for us are the people in Parliament representing the people of Britain as a whole. If you're Nissan, you get told. If you're EU ambassadors, you get told. If you're a Czech newspaper, you get told. But the people of the country, through Parliament, get told nothing. That's wrong, that's got to change.
Is it possible to have a situation where we have control of our borders, but we also have a good degree of freedom of movement?
Well, that's what some people who campaigned for a Leave vote would like to have you believe.
Well, is that the unicorn, or is that a possibility?
Well, I don't see how the other 27 member states, who are still going to be buying into all the restrictions that come with that, are going to turn around and say, OK, you're leaving, but you can keep all the good stuff. You will just leave behind the bad stuff. I just don't honestly see how.
But from the memo that we saw in the aide's arms as she walked down Downing Street, have your cake and eat it is exactly what they want.
Well, if it was only Britain that was having a say in that, then yeah, sure, we might want to have our cake and eat it. But there are 27 other member states who are all pursuing their own national interest. We'll see what comes out of the negotiation at the end. That really is why, once we know what the deal is going to be, there ought to be a referendum. People ought to know exactly whether they have got what they voted for on the 23rd of June or
you
not.
are part of this new select committee on Brexit. If the government and Theresa May is not going to discuss the deal before she goes into negotiations, what do you guys and girls, women, sit around discussing on this select committee?
Well, at the moment, it's all very high-level stuff. It's saying, what would this mean? What would that mean? What would the other mean?
But she doesn't even know what she's going to negotiate.
And it's very difficult to scrutinise government policy when government won't tell you what the policy is. The problem is, Theresa May just keeps saying Brexit's been Brexit, which really means absolutely nothing at all. And she's doing that because she knows as soon as she says anything more specific than that, then the whole splits in her own party open up wide for everybody to see.
Or she's protecting her hand so she's stronger when she goes into negotiations.
She's got to start negotiating this, or conducting this negotiation on the basis of a national interest and not just as an internal party management exercise for the Tories.
Yeah, and to give you something to scrutinise as well. Alistair Carmichael, thanks very much indeed.
Thank you, Alison.